Hey folks, and welcome back to Midnight Terror Vibes. Tonight we're looking at two reasons why you should never mess with the Ouija board. First, a story about a garage that was strictly off limits and a son who decided to find out why. Then, we headed to a small town in Texas where a group of friends invited something in that they can't get out. I hope you're settled in because these stories don't have happy endings. Let's begin.
We asked the Ouija board about the witch. It said, "Let her in." I grew up in a small town in Texas, where nothing ever happens. And that's not me being dramatic. That's just a fact. One high school, one Walmart, two gas stations across from each other, like they're in a lifelong standoff, and a Dairy Queen that closes whenever the manager feels like it. If you blink while driving through, you miss the entire place. That's how small it is. When you live somewhere like that, you make your own entertainment. For us, that meant sitting in the cemetery parking lot at night, windows down, passing around gas station Dr. Peppers, and talking about dumb stuff we saw on TikTok. True crime, ghost stories, local rumors that had been recycled since our grandparents were teenagers. There was one rumor everyone knew. The witch. Not like pointy hat, Halloween witch. Not Salem dramatic. Just, don't go near Miller's Crossing Cemetery after dark witch. People said she showed up sometimes. People said she talked to graves. People said she left things behind. No one had proof. It was always someone's cousin's friend's uncle who saw her. So of course, we joked about it. It started one Friday night after the football game. We lost, like usual. Me, Caleb, Danny, and Luis ended up in the cemetery because there's literally nowhere else to park where cops won't bother you. We were laughing about it. Danny was scrolling through Instagram and said, "Imagine being the cemetery witch. Like, what's her skincare routine?" Caleb said, "Probably goat blood and CeraVe." Luis added, "Nah, she's probably on Facebook Marketplace selling cursed candles." We were crying, laughing. It was that late night, sleep-deprived kind of funny, where everything hits harder. Then Danny went quiet. She was staring past us, through the windshield. "Guys," she said softly. "Stop." We all looked. About 50 yards in, near one of the older graves, the ones with the tilted headstones and fake flowers bleached almost white by the sun, there was a woman. She was standing completely still. Long, dark hair. Like, really long. Down past her waist. She wasn't dressed like anything specific. Just a loose grey dress that moved slightly in the wind. We went silent. "Okay," Caleb whispered. "Whose mum is that?" No one laughed. The woman knelt slowly in front of a grave. We couldn't see her face from where we were parked, just her back. Then she reached up and grabbed her hair. At first, I thought she was fixing it, but she wasn't. She pulled. Hard. We saw the motion clearly under the moonlight. Both hands gripping near the base of her neck. And she ripped a chunk of her own hair out. Danny gasped. The woman leaned forward and placed the hair carefully on top of the grave. Not tossed, placed, like an offering. Then she stood up and turned her head slightly. Not fully toward us, just enough that we could tell she knew we were there. We ducked down instinctively. My heart was pounding so loud, I could hear it in my ears. "What the hell?" Luis muttered. We waited maybe 10 seconds before slowly rising back up. She was gone. No footsteps. No car starting. Nothing. Just empty headstones and wind. Caleb immediately said, "Okay, that was staged. That was definitely staged." "By who?" Danny snapped. We didn't have an answer. We didn't go investigate. We didn't get out of the car. We just sat there for a few seconds longer before Caleb started the engine and drove us out of there faster than I've ever seen him drive. The next day, we went back, in broad daylight, because obviously we needed to prove to ourselves that we didn't imagine it. The grave was real. An older one. Early 1900s. And sitting right on top of it, tangled in the fake flowers, a thick, dark clump of hair. Real hair. Not a wig, not yarn, not fake. Danny refused to touch it. Luis used a stick. It was definitely human. That should have been the end of it. But small towns make you stupid. Instead of leaving it alone, Caleb said, "We should ask." "Ask who?" I said. "The board." He said it casually, like everyone just owned one. Apparently, Danny's older sister had one buried in her closet from some sleepover phase. And because we were idiots, because we were bored, because we needed this to either be fake or funny, we decided that night we'd use it. Not to summon anything, just to ask if what we saw was real. That's how it always starts, right? With just. We set up in Danny's basement. Her parents were asleep upstairs. The house smelled faintly like laundry detergent and whatever candle her mum always burned. It felt stupid. We weren't candle circle weirdos. We had the TV on low in the background, playing some random Netflix show we weren't watching. Our phones were on the table next to us. Caleb was still replying to Snapchats while we were setting the board down. "That woman wasn't a witch," Luis said. "Probably just some grieving person." "Who rips their own hair out?" Danny shot back. No one answered. We sat cross-legged around the board, put our fingers on the planchette. I felt ridiculous. "Is the woman we saw real?" Caleb asked, trying to keep his tone steady, but failing. Nothing happened. Luis smirked. "See?" Then the planchette moved, just slightly at first, then clearly. "Yes." The room went quiet. Caleb laughed nervously. "Okay, who pushed?" No one admitted to it. Danny swallowed. "Is she a witch?" The planchette didn't hesitate. "Yes." My stomach tightened. "Is she dangerous?" I asked. It paused longer this time, then moved. "Yes." The air in the basement felt heavier somehow, like the room had shrunk. Luis shook his head. "Ask something real. Something specific. I don't know why this is what I chose. But I asked, does she know we saw her?" The planchette slid slowly. "Yes." Caleb pulled his hands back slightly. "Okay. That's not funny." Danny Danny's voice was barely above a whisper. What does she want? The planchette started moving faster now. Not smooth, sharp, intentional. Let. My throat went dry. Her. Caleb said. Nope. The board kept going. In. The lights flickered. Just once, but enough that we all noticed. Let her in. The basement door, at the top of the stairs behind us, creaked. We all turned at the same time. It was still closed, but the handle slowly shifted, like someone testing it, and Danny's phone lit up on the table beside us. A notification. Unknown number. She stared at it without touching it. The preview showed just 3 words. I'm outside now. That was the first time I realized this wasn't about a legend. It wasn't about a rumor. And it definitely wasn't a joke anymore. Danny didn't open the message. She just stared at her phone like it might bite her. The basement suddenly felt wrong in a way I can't fully explain. Not colder, not darker, just aware. Like the room itself had started listening. Block it, Louise whispered. I didn't give anyone my number, Danny said, and her voice had this thin, strained edge to it, like she was trying not to cry, but didn't want us to hear it. Caleb stood up too fast and hit his knee on the coffee table. I'm checking outside. No, I said immediately, but he was already halfway up the stairs. We heard him unlock the back door upstairs. The hinge squealed faintly. The sound carried down to us, distorted by the stairwell. Then silence. Not normal silence. The kind where your ears start filling in noise that isn't there. Danny's phone buzzed again. She flinched so hard she almost dropped it. Another message. Why aren't you opening the door? Louise grabbed the phone from her before she could hesitate. He opened the thread. There were photos. 3 of them. The first was blurry. Just darkness and a patch of siding from the side of Danny's house. The second was clearer. It was the backyard, taken from inside the fence. The third was of the basement window, from the outside. We were visible in it. 4 silhouettes around the board. My stomach dropped so hard, it felt like the floor gave out. She's in the yard, Louise said. We could hear Caleb's footsteps upstairs again. Fast this time. He came down the stairs pale. Not joking. Not pretending. There's someone by the shed, he said. I saw movement. Danny stood up, shaking her head. No, 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 no. This isn't funny. The basement door at the top of the stairs slammed shut. Not gently, not from wind. It slammed. The kind of slam that makes the walls tremble. We all froze. Caleb, Danny whispered. I'm right here, he said. Louis slowly walked to the bottom of the stairs. He didn't go up. He just stared at the closed door. And that's when we heard it. Footsteps. Above us. Slow. Dragging slightly. Crossing the living room floor. Each step deliberate. Heavy enough that we could track exactly where whoever it was had moved. Danny started crying openly now. My parents, they're at your aunt's, Caleb said automatically. We all remembered at the same time. They were out of town for the weekend. The footsteps stopped directly above us, right where we were sitting. The basement ceiling creaked softly, like someone leaning down, listening. Danny's phone buzzed again. Luis didn't hesitate this time. He read it out loud. "She likes that you watched." I felt something snap inside my chest. Not like fear. Something uglier. A creeping understanding. "She wanted us to see," I said. The planchette moved. We weren't touching it. Our hands were nowhere near it. It slid across the board slowly, like something pulling it from underneath. "Yes!" Danny screamed. The basement light flickered once, twice, then steadied. There was a new message. A video this time. Luis pressed play before anyone could stop him. It was grainy, vertical, shot from close range. It showed the grave, the same one from the cemetery. The hair was still on top of it. The woman stepped into frame. Same grey dress. Same long hair. But this time, we saw her face. It was wrong. Not deformed. Not monstrous. Just stretched. Her smile went too far. Not physically tearing, but wide in a way that made your brain reject it. She looked directly into the camera. Then she reached up and pulled out another chunk of her hair. No hesitation, no pain reaction. She pressed it into the camera lens. The screen went dark for a second. Then the image shifted. It wasn't the cemetery anymore. It was Danny's backyard. Same angle as the photo. She was standing near the shed. And she was closer. The video ended. The footsteps above us resumed. Slower now. Crossing the floor again. Toward the kitchen. Then toward the back door. The handle jiggled. Locked. A pause. Then 3 slow knocks on the door upstairs. Not frantic. Patient. Caleb whispered, "Call the police." Luis already had his phone out. No signal. Not even emergency calls. Mine said the same. Danny's too. Wi-Fi was gone. Every device showed no service. The basement light flickered again, and this time it went out. Pitch black. Danny screamed again, louder. Someone knocked on the basement door. 3 times. From the other side. Not pounding, not trying to break in. Just knocking, like a guest. Luis backed away from the stairs so fast he tripped over the edge of the rug. The knocking came again. 3 measured taps. Then a voice. Soft. Female. Right on the other side of the door. "I know you're down there." It didn't sound distorted. It didn't echo. It sounded normal. Like someone speaking through wood. Danny started hyperventilating. Caleb whispered, "Don't answer." The voice spoke again. "You asked about me." The basement felt smaller by the second. "You opened it." Another knock. "But you didn't finish." The doorknob began to turn slowly. It rattled against the lock. Once. Twice. Then stopped. Silence. For maybe 5 full seconds. Then the basement window shattered. Glass exploded inward, spraying across the floor and couch. Cold air rushed in. And for half a second, just a flash, I saw her, crouched outside the broken window, her face inches from the opening, smiling. Her hair hung around her like it was wet, though it wasn't raining anymore. Her eyes weren't normal. They were too still. No blinking. No shifting. Just fixed. On us. Luis grabbed a broken chair leg from the floor without thinking. Caleb yanked Danny behind him, and the woman tilted her head slowly to one side, like she was confused why we weren't inviting her in. Her lips parted slightly, and she whispered through the broken window, "Say it." The planchette scraped loudly across the board again. Even in the dark, we could hear it. Dragging. Relentless. Letherin. The voice from the window grew softer, almost affectionate. Just say it. I don't know if it was fear, or stupidity, or something else entirely. But Danny broke. Through sobs, shaking uncontrollably, she whispered, "Come in." And the smile on that woman's face widened just a little bit more. That was when I realized something that still wakes me up at night. She wasn't trying to get inside the house. She was trying to get inside us. And we had just opened the door. The second Danny said it, the air changed. I don't mean it got colder. I mean it felt occupied. Like something slid into the room that had always been waiting just outside the frame. The woman didn't climb through the broken window. She didn't lunge. She didn't move at all. She just straightened up slowly and smiled. Then she stepped back into the dark yard, out of view. That was worse, because now we didn't know where she was. Caleb rushed to the window and slammed it shut as much as he could, even though the glass was blown inward and crunching under his shoes. Luis dragged the heavy storage bin in front of it with shaking hands. We expected pounding, scratching, something. But nothing came. No footsteps outside. No voice. Just the sound of Danny sobbing and the faint hum of electricity coming back to the basement lights as they flickered weakly on. The board was still on the floor. The planchette sat perfectly centered, still, like nothing had happened. "Is she gone?" Danny whispered. No one answered. My ears were ringing. That's when Caleb staggered backward. Not like someone shoved him. Like his legs just stopped responding. He dropped to one knee and grabbed his head. "Caleb?" I said. He didn't respond. He was breathing hard. Too hard. Like he'd just sprinted a mile. "I can't," he muttered. "I can't get it out." "Get what out?" Luis asked. Caleb looked up at us, and I swear to God, for a split second, his pupils were too wide. swallowing the brown in his eyes. "She's loud," he whispered. Danny froze mid-sob. "What do you mean?" I said. He pressed his palms to his temples. She's not outside." The basement light flickered again, and the planchette twitched. Just once. Caleb's breathing turned into short, panicked gasps. "She's inside," he said. "Inside where?" Luis demanded. Caleb slowly lifted his hand from his head. His fingers were trembling violently. "Here." He tapped his forehead. Danny backed away from him like he'd just pulled a knife. "Stop," she said. "Stop saying that." Caleb's face contorted like he was trying to hold something back. "She's asking questions," he muttered. "What questions?" I asked. His mouth opened, but the voice that came out wasn't his. It was softer, higher, calm. "Why did you watch?" Danny screamed. Luis grabbed Caleb's shoulders and shook him hard. "Snap out of it!" Caleb blinked rapidly. For a second, he looked confused. Then he started laughing. Not hysterical, not manic. Just this low, steady chuckle that didn't match the situation at all. "You think it's me?" he said. But his lips weren't moving right. The timing was off. Like the voice was slightly delayed. "She just needed permission," the voice continued. "One of you had to mean it." The planchette began moving again. Slow. Dragging. Spelling nothing we recognized at first. Just circling letters. Over and over. Like it was tracing something. Danny ran up the stairs. We heard her fumbling with the door at the top. It wouldn't open. She rattled the handle. It didn't budge. "Luis!" she shouted. "It's stuck." He bolted after her. I stayed with Caleb. I don't know why. Maybe because he looked smaller somehow. Curled inward. His laugh cut off abruptly. His head snapped toward me. Not slowly, not naturally. It was a jerk. Sharp enough that I heard his neck crack. His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt something push against my thoughts. That's the only way I can describe it. Like someone pressing a cold thumb into the center of your brain. Images started flooding in. The grave. The hair. But closer. Closer than we'd seen it. Hands digging into soil. Fingernails tearing. Breathing from underground. Pressure. Darkness. Waiting. Caleb's mouth opened again. "She doesn't like that you laughed," the voice said quietly. I stumbled backward and hit the edge of the couch. Luis came barreling down the stairs, dragging Danny behind him. "It won't open," he said. "Both doors are jammed." Caleb stood up slowly. Too smoothly. Like his body wasn't stiff at all anymore. "She wants one," he said. "One what?" Luis demanded. Caleb smiled. But it wasn't Caleb smiling. "One of you." The basement window behind us cracked loudly. Not shattered. Cracked. Spiderweb fractures spreading across what glass remained. The storage bin scraped across the floor by itself. An inch. Then another. Danny started praying under her breath. Caleb stepped toward her. Louis got between them immediately. "Back up," Louis said. Caleb tilted his head again. "She's curious," the voice said. "She wants to feel." "Feel what?" I whispered. Caleb's hand shot out and grabbed Louis's wrist. Hard. Louis winced instantly. "Let go," he snapped. Caleb tightened his grip. Louis tried to pull away. He couldn't. Caleb was never that strong. Never. But his fingers dug into Louise's skin like clamps. "She wants to know how warm you are," the voice murmured. And then Caleb bent down and bit him. Not a quick bite, not a startled reaction. He clamped down on Louise's forearm like an animal. Louis screamed. Blood soaked through his sleeve immediately. Caleb didn't stop. He tore. I heard the sound. Wet. Wrong. Danny grabbed a lamp and smashed it against Caleb's back. The bulb shattered. He didn't flinch. He just kept chewing, like he was tasting something, testing it. Louise punched him in the side of the head as hard as he could. Nothing. Caleb finally released him. Slowly. Louise stumbled back, clutching his arm, blood dripping onto the carpet. Caleb's lips were stained red. He licked them. "She doesn't like that one," he said calmly. Too scared. Danny was sobbing hysterically now. I felt frozen. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. Caleb turned toward me. His eyes weren't wide anymore. They were focused. Clear. "She likes you," he said. And that's when I felt it again. That pressure inside my skull, like something was brushing against my thoughts. Testing. Probing. A whisper. Not audible, but there. Curious. Hungry. The planchette slammed hard against the edge of the board and flew off onto the floor. The basement lights went out completely. Total darkness. Louise shouted something I couldn't make out. Danny was screaming again. And somewhere in that pitch-black room, Caleb started humming. A soft, steady tune. Like a lullaby. And I realized something that made my skin go numb. The voice wasn't coming from his mouth anymore. It was everywhere. Behind us. Beside us. Inside the walls. Inside my head. "She only needs one," it whispered. And in the dark, I felt someone's fingers brush against my cheek. They were cold, but they were definitely human. I didn't scream. I couldn't. When those fingers brushed my cheek, every muscle in my body locked, like I'd been dipped in ice water and left to harden. My lungs worked, but barely. The darkness wasn't just absence of light anymore. It felt thick, textured, like breathing through fabric. Louise was still yelling somewhere to my left. Danny's crying had turned into these broken, hiccuping gasps. Caleb's humming drifted in and out, moving around the room without footsteps. And the fingers were still there. Not gripping, just resting against my skin. Exploring. I forced my hand up and grabbed whatever was touching me. I expected air, or Caleb's wrist. What I felt was hair. Thick, cold, wrapped loosely around my fingers like fishing line. I yanked my hand back instinctively. The hair tightened, pulled. Not hard enough to drag me, just enough to let me know it had leverage. Then the lights came back on. Not fully, just a dim, unstable flicker. The basement looked wrong. Furniture slightly shifted from where it had been seconds earlier. The rug bunched near the stairs. The board flipped upside down. The storage bin that had blocked the window was now tipped over completely. Caleb was standing in the center of the room, alone. No one was touching me. No one was near me. But I could still feel strands of something brushing against my neck. Luis was crouched against the wall, clutching his arm. Blood had soaked through his sleeve and dripped down onto the floor in slow, steady taps. His face had gone grey. Danny was near the stairs, staring at Caleb like she didn't recognize him. Caleb wasn't humming anymore. He was smiling. But it wasn't that exaggerated grin from before. This one was smaller, contained, satisfied. She changed her mind, he said softly. No echoing voice this time. Just him. About what? I managed. He tilted his head slightly. She doesn't want one of you. A long pause. She wants all of you. The basement door at the top of the stairs unlocked. We heard it clearly. The click. No one had touched it. The handle slowly turned. The door opened inward. And standing there was Danny. Another Danny. Same hoodie. Same tear-streaked face. Same trembling hands. Only she wasn't breathing hard. She wasn't crying. She was calm. The real Danny made a sound that didn't even sound human. Just a raw, choking noise. The thing at the top of the stairs looked down at us, at herself, and smiled gently. You shouldn't have watched, she said. Her voice was identical, perfectly matched. She stepped down one stair, then another. Her movements were smooth, controlled, almost rehearsed. Luis shook his head violently. No, no, no. The real Danny backed into the wall like she could sink through it. The copy reached the bottom step, stopped, and looked at Caleb. They held eye contact, like they were communicating silently. Then Caleb walked toward her. Not aggressively, not possessed looking, just casual, like meeting someone he'd been expecting. They stood face to face, mirrors of stillness. And then, Caleb's body folded. That's the only word that fits. Folded inward like his bones had softened. His shoulders collapsed first, then his knees buckled, and he crumpled to the floor in a heap that didn't look structurally correct. No scream. No impact sound loud enough for what just happened. Just a heavy, dull thud. The copy of Danny didn't react. She stepped over him, slowly approached the real Danny. You opened it, she said. The real Danny shook her head violently. I didn't. The copy reached up and touched her face, the same way something had touched mine in the dark. Gentle, almost affectionate. "Intent matters," she whispered. The basement lights began flickering faster now. The shadows along the walls stretched in unnatural directions, like they weren't aligned with the light source anymore. Luis tried to stand, but stumbled immediately from blood loss. I grabbed him under the shoulder to steady him. The copy turned her head toward us, and for the first time, her face changed. Not melting, not monstrous, just slightly misaligned, like a face worn over another face. Her eyes drifted half an inch too far apart. Her smile widened just enough to expose too many teeth. "She needs to feel what you felt," she said quietly. The real Danny started screaming. The copy grabbed her by the hair and pulled. Not a dramatic yank, just firm, controlled. She dragged her toward the center of the room where Caleb's body lay twisted. Danny clawed at the floor. Her nails scraped against concrete. Luis lunged forward with a strangled yell, but I held him back instinctively. I don't know why. I just knew rushing forward wouldn't fix this. The copy forced Danny to her knees. "You saw," she whispered. And then she reached up, gripped Danny's hair near the scalp, and began to pull. Danny shrieked so loud my ears rang. It wasn't a quick motion. It wasn't cinematic. It was slow, deliberate. You could hear strands snapping, tiny tearing sounds. Danny thrashed violently. The copy didn't strain, didn't grimace. She just kept pulling. A thick clump finally came free. Danny collapsed forward, clutching her head, sobbing. Blood trickled through her fingers. The copy looked down at the hair in her hand thoughtfully. Then she looked at me. Not past me. At me. "She still doesn't understand," she said softly. And suddenly, every memory of that night at the cemetery came back sharper than before. Not from my perspective, from hers. Standing behind the grave, feeling us watching, enjoying it. The exposure, the attention, the curiosity. She wanted to be witnessed, but not mocked, not doubted, and definitely not challenged. "You asked if I was real," the copy said. Her voice layered now. Multiple tones under it. Low, high, whispering beneath the surface. The basement temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. You don't ask something like that unless you're prepared to live with the answer. The real Danny was barely conscious now, curled on the floor. Luis was shaking violently beside me. Caleb hadn't moved. The copy stepped closer to me. I couldn't move. I don't know if I was frozen by fear or something else. She reached out again. And this time, when her fingers touched my forehead, something inside me opened, like a door unlatched, and I felt her step through. When she touched my forehead, it didn't feel like something entering. It felt like something aligning, like a key turning in a lock that had always been there. body was still in the basement. I could see it. See Louise slumped against the wall. See Danny curled on the floor, clutching her head. See Caleb twisted in that impossible shape that didn't look survivable. But I was also somewhere else. Underground. Pressure on every side. Dirt packed against my teeth. Breathing in soil. Not suffocating. Just waiting. Waiting for footsteps above. Waiting for eyes. Waiting for someone to notice the disturbance in the grass. The sensation wasn't visual. It was emotional. A long, stretched out hunger. Not for blood. Not for pain. For acknowledgement. For invitation. For the door. And I understood it. That's the worst part. I understood why she needed us to say it. Permission is intimacy. It binds. When I snapped back fully into my body, I was on my knees. The copy of Danny was gone. Not faded. Not vanished in smoke. Gone. Like she had never occupied physical space. The basement lights were steady now. No flicker. No distortion. The room looked almost normal. Except Caleb wasn't breathing. And Danny was whispering something over and over that I couldn't make out. Louise was staring at me. Not blinking. "You were smiling," he said. I hadn't realized I was. My face felt tight. Like muscles had been used in ways they weren't meant to. "I didn't mean to," I said automatically. But my voice sounded distant to my own ears. Muted. Like I was hearing myself through water. Luis dragged himself toward the stairs again. This time the door opened easily. No resistance. He didn't hesitate. He ran. I heard the front door slam upstairs seconds later. Danny tried to stand and collapsed again. Her hands were sticky with blood. I crawled toward her. She flinched away from me. "Don't," she whispered hoarsely. "Don't touch me." I stopped, because I wasn't sure what would happen if I did. The basement felt empty now. Not peaceful, just vacant. Like a theater after the audience leaves. Caleb's body lay still in the center of the room. I forced myself to look at him properly. His limbs were bent wrong, but not broken through skin. No dramatic gore. Just structural failure. Like something had folded him and forgotten to unfold him. His eyes were open. And they weren't empty. They were aware. Not moving. Not blinking. But aware. Watching. I don't know how long we stayed down there. Time didn't move normally. Eventually, sirens. Distant at first. Then close. Luis must have made it to a neighbor's house. Police filled the basement. Paramedics, flashlights, questions. So many questions. They asked about drugs, about mental health, about fight, about anything that would make this make sense. There were no signs of forced entry. No footprints outside the window except ours. No strange woman on any nearby cameras. Danny and I gave statements separately. I don't remember what I said. I do remember one thing clearly. When the paramedics tried to move Caleb's body, his jaw shifted slightly. Just slightly. And one of them recoiled, because it looked like he was trying to speak. They ruled it an accident. Structural collapse due to unknown neurological episode. That's the phrase they used. Lewis needed stitches. Danny needed counseling. I moved away from Texas 2 months later. Different state, different apartment, different everything. I don't talk to Danny anymore. Luis barely responds to texts. But that's not the part that stays with me. It's what happened after. It started small. I'd wake up with strands of hair on my pillow. Not mine, longer, darker, twisted together like they'd been placed there deliberately. I told myself it was stress. Grief does weird things. Then I started noticing drafts in sealed rooms. Not cold air, just pressure changes, like someone entering quietly and closing the door behind them. My phone started glitching at night. Not dramatically, just the front camera activating briefly. Screen lighting up for half a second. No notifications, no apps open. Once, I checked my photo gallery. There were images I hadn't taken, close-ups of my face while I slept, taken inches away, in the dark. You couldn't see who held the phone, just my closed eyes. And in some of them, a shadow leaning over me. The worst night was 3 weeks ago. I woke up around 3:11 a.m., not from a noise, from a thought. A very clear, very distinct thought that wasn't mine. You never closed it. My bedroom door was open. I always close it. Always. I sat up slowly, and I could feel it. That pressure again, behind my forehead. Not painful, just present, like someone resting their chin on my thoughts. The hallway outside my room was dark, but not empty. There was shape to the darkness, a density, like someone standing there, just outside what the streetlight through the blinds could reach. I didn't move. Neither did it. We just existed in the same space, aware of each other. And then, my phone lit up on the nightstand. No notification sound, just the screen. A message from an unknown number. No contact name, no profile picture. 3 words. Let me in. I didn't respond. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Because I finally understood something. She never needed the house. She never needed the basement. She needed acknowledgement. She needed invitation. And once given, it doesn't expire. The shape in the hallway shifted slightly. Not stepping forward, not retreating, just adjusting. Patient. I don't use the board anymore. I don't go near cemeteries. I don't joke about witches. But sometimes when I'm alone, I feel my own thoughts pause for half a second. Like they're making room. Like something else is about to speak. And every now and then, when I look in the mirror, my smile stretches just a little wider than I remember it being. And for a split second, I don't feel alone inside my own head. My dad said never use the Ouija board in the garage. I did. I wasn't even going to say this part, because it makes everything sound fake, like I'm trying to add law to my own life for views. But if I'm telling this the right way, I can't leave it out. My dad used to be a Satanist, not the hot topic pentagram necklace in high school kind, not the edgy Tumblr bio kind. I mean the real, weird, secretive, meets in basements kind. Or at least, that's what he told me once when he was half asleep on the couch and the History Channel was playing something about cults at 1 a.m. I was 16. I thought he was joking. He wasn't smiling. He said he used to run with people who believed in things they shouldn't have. That's the exact phrasing. I remember it because it sounded scripted. He told me it was a long time ago, before I was born, before he met my mum. He said most of it was symbolic and psychological, but some of the people involved didn't see it that way. Then he changed the subject, like he regretted even bringing it up. I never pushed him on it. We weren't that kind of family. We don't unpack trauma over coffee. We ignore it and fix cars. So yeah, when he told me not to use the Ouija board in the garage, it wasn't coming from some random suburban dad superstition. It was coming from someone who had already messed with things once, and I still did it anyway. When I dropped my phone, it hit the concrete so hard the screen protector cracked. Marissa didn't even look at it. She was staring up. The sound above us wasn't loud. That's what made it worse. It wasn't some horror movie crash. It was the subtle, shifting pressure of something adjusting its weight, like knees on plywood. "You have raccoons?" she whispered. "In Arizona. The ceiling of the garage is unfinished. Exposed beams. Insulation in certain spots. No attic storage. No reason for anything to be up there." The light flickered again. Longer this time. The shadows stretched across the walls and snapped back into place. And then my phone buzzed again. We both looked down at it like it might explode. Another email. Same blank sender. Subject line: "He told you not to." My chest felt tight. Not panic exactly. More like embarrassment. Like I'd broken a rule I didn't understand. "I'm leaving," Marissa said suddenly. She didn't say it dramatically. She just decided. She backed toward the side door, eyes still scanning the ceiling. I grabbed the board without thinking. I don't even know why. Reflex, maybe. It felt wrong to leave it there. As soon as I lifted it, something hit the metal garage door. Hard. The entire thing rattled in its tracks. Marissa screamed. Full volume. Not cute, not performative. I fumbled with the side door handle. It stuck for a second, because of course it did, and then it swung open. We ran. The air outside felt different, thinner, like stepping out of a pool and realizing how heavy the water was. We didn't stop until we were inside the house with the door locked. My dad was asleep. TV still on low volume in the living room. Marissa grabbed her keys. "I'm not staying." I couldn't blame her. When she left, I stood there for a long time, staring at the hallway that leads to the back door. The door that opens toward the garage. I checked the email again. The image was still there. Clearer now that I wasn't shaking as much. The angle didn't make sense. It was too high. Too precise. And there, in the top left corner of the frame, where the ceiling meets the wall, something darker than the shadows. Not shaped like a person, more like a bend in the air. I zoomed in. The pixels distorted, but I could make out something that looked almost like fingers. Too long. Curved wrong. I deleted the email. Then I deleted it from trash. I even checked my sent folder like an idiot, half expecting to see that I'd sent it to myself somehow. Nothing. The next morning, I went into the kitchen and my dad was already awake, drinking coffee. He looked normal. Tired, but normal. "You go in the garage last night?" he asked. My stomach dropped. Why? The light was on. I opened my mouth to lie. Instead, I said, "Yeah." He nodded once. Slow. "Anything happen?" I hesitated. This was the moment. I could have told him about the email, the photo, the sound in the ceiling. Instead, I said, "No." He held my gaze a second too long. Then he said something I didn't expect. "It doesn't like to be invited." Not they. Not it's dangerous. Just that. It doesn't like to be invited. I felt my skin go cold. "Dad," I said carefully, "what did you do in that garage?" He stared into his coffee like the answer was printed on the surface. "Nothing that followed me," he said. That word. Followed. Before I could press him, his phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it, and for just a split second, I swear, I saw the color drain from his face. He turned the screen away from me. "Stay out of there," he said. And this time, it wasn't a suggestion. It was fear. That night, I didn't go near the garage. But around 1:30 a.m., while I was in bed scrolling through Instagram reels with the volume low, I got another email. No subject line this time, just a live image feed. From inside the house, from the hallway, facing my bedroom door. And the timestamp was real time. I could hear my own breathing in the room. But in the video, there was another sound. Breathing. On the other side of the door. I didn't open my bedroom door. I just sat there on my bed, phone in my hand, watching the live feed like an idiot. Like, if I stared at it long enough, it would glitch, and I'd wake up from whatever this was. The camera angle was low. Too low to be a ceiling camera. It looked like it was sitting on the floor in the hallway, tilted slightly upward toward my door. There's a small crack under my bedroom door, maybe half an inch. Enough for light to slip through if the hallway light is on. In the video, the hallway was dark, but I could still see the outline of my door. And then I heard it again. Breathing. Not through my phone speakers. Through the actual wood in front of me. Slow. Wet. Close. My brain tried to fix it. Pipes. A sea. My dad snoring in another room. Except my dad's bedroom is on the other side of the house. And this breathing wasn't distant. It was at knee level. Right on the other side. The live feed flickered. For half a second, something shifted in front of the lens. Not fully visible. Just a blur of pale movement passing between the camera and my door. I didn't scream. I didn't move. There's this thing that happens when you're actually scared. Not startled, not spooked, but genuinely confronted with something that shouldn't exist. Your body doesn't react the way horror movies train you to expect. It freezes. Your brain goes into observation mode. Mine was cataloguing details like I was about to write a police report. The breathing stopped. The live feed didn't. The camera stayed there, watching, waiting. Then my phone vibrated again. A text this time. From my dad. 3 words. Did you open it? My stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to throw up. I typed back immediately. Open what? The 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. Stopped. Then, don't answer the door, no matter what it sounds like. I stared at that message, and right on cue, knocking. Soft. 3 taps. Not loud. Not aggressive. Polite. Like someone trying not to wake anyone else. I could see it in the live feed. The door didn't move, but the wood vibrated slightly with each tap. I didn't respond. The knocking came again. 3 taps. A pause. 3 taps. My phone buzzed with another email. Subject line. He won't save you twice. There was no attachment this time. Just text in the body. You invited it where he couldn't contain it. Contain. That word felt deliberate. Like something had been kept somewhere. Like something had been restricted. The garage. I slowly slid off my bed and crouched down, lowering myself until my eye was level with the crack under the door. I told myself I was being stupid. I told myself I needed proof that this was a prank, a hack, some elaborate digital harassment. I pressed my face to the floor. The hallway was dark, but there was something blocking part of the light from the living room down the hall. Something low to the ground. 2 shapes. Not feet. Not shoes. More like palms. Flattened against the floor. Facing inward. As if someone was crouched right against my door. Hands splayed out on either side of it. I couldn't see arms. Just fingers. Long. Jointed wrong. Bending slightly as they shifted weight. The breathing started again. Closer. And then, my dad's voice. Hey, it said softly. Open up. Every muscle in my body locked. That was my dad's voice. Exact tone. Exact rhythm. Even that slight gravel he gets when he hasn't had water. But my phone was still in my other hand. And he was still texting me. Another message came through. It can copy. I felt something inside me snap. Dad? The voice outside said again, a little louder. It's okay. The hands under the door twitched. One finger pressed flat against the crack. I could see the nail. It was black. Not painted. Black like it had never had blood in it. The voice changed slightly. Still my dad, but thinner. Like it was being played through a speaker, submerged in water. Please, it said. And then it did something that made my heart physically hurt. It started mimicking my mum. Her voice. I haven't heard her voice in years except in old home videos. But I know it. You don't forget your mother's voice. Baby, it whispered. I couldn't breathe. The fingers curled. The wood of the door creaked inward slightly. Not breaking. Just flexing. Like pressure was being tested. My phone rang, not buzzed. Rang. Unknown number. The knocking stopped. The breathing stopped. The hands under the door went still. I answered. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Desperation. All I heard was my own room. From a different angle. My breathing. Amplified. And then the sound of something moving behind me. In my actual room. I turned slowly. There was nothing there. But in the live feed on my phone, the camera had changed position. It was no longer in the hallway. It was inside my bedroom. Behind me. Watching me kneeling at the door. The image was slightly delayed. Maybe half a second. But I could see the back of my own head. The outline of my shoulders. And just behind me, a distortion. Like heat over asphalt, shaped vaguely like a person bending down toward me. I dropped the phone, spun around. The room was empty. The air felt heavier, thicker. The knocking started again. But this time, it wasn't at the door. It was under my bed. 3 taps. Right beneath the mattress. Slow. Deliberate. The mattress dipped slightly. Not dramatically. Just enough that I felt the shift in weight through my knees on the floor. I scrambled backward into the wall. The tapping continued. Moving. From the center of the bed. Toward the headboard. Then stopping. Directly under where I had been sleeping minutes earlier. My phone screen lit up again on the floor. Another email. No subject. Just a sentence. You let it see you. I heard my dad's bedroom door slam open down the hall. Real footsteps this time. Heavy, rushed. The thing under my bed went silent. The hallway outside my door filled with actual light. Real light. Not flickering. My dad pounded on my door. "Open it!" he shouted. His real voice. Raw. Terrified. I unlocked it and yanked it open. He grabbed my shoulders and pulled me into the hallway. He didn't look confused. He didn't ask what happened. He looked furious. Not at me. At the house. At the space around us. He turned toward my room. And for a split second, something moved inside. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just a tall shadow shifting across the wall opposite my bed. As if stepping back into a corner where the light couldn't reach. My dad stepped inside. I tried to follow. He shoved me back. "Stay out," he said. The same words, but different this time. He walked into my room and shut the door behind him. I stood in the hallway listening. No yelling, no crashing, just silence. Then, a single thud, like something heavy dropping onto carpet. And the overhead hallway light flickered once. Just once. When he came out 5 minutes later, he looked older. Not physically, just worn down. "There's nothing in there," he said. But he didn't meet my eyes. And when I went back into my room later, the underside of my bed frame had deep indentations in the wood. 5 of them, evenly spaced, like fingers had gripped it. Hard. I didn't sleep. Not that night. Not really any night after that. I stayed in the living room with every light on, TV running some random Food Network marathon at 3 a.m., like the sound of people baking cupcakes could anchor reality. My dad didn't say much. He sat in his recliner with a glass of water he didn't drink, staring at nothing. Around 4 in the morning, he finally spoke. "You moved it," he said. I didn't pretend not to understand. "The board." He nodded once. "You changed the boundary." That word again. Not invitation, not summoning. Boundary. Like something had been fenced. Kept to a specific perimeter. And I'd opened a gate. I didn't, I started. "You used it in there," he said, cutting me off. Not angry, just stating a fact. That's where it was contained. Contained. Like a spill. Like radiation. Like a dog that bites. I felt my throat tighten. What was? He didn't answer. Instead, he stood up and walked to the back door that leads toward the garage. He didn't open it. He just stood there, staring at it. "Go pack a bag," he said. "For what?" "In case." "In case what?" He finally looked at me. "In case it doesn't want me anymore." That sentence didn't land at first. It just floated there between us. Shapeless. Doesn't want me anymore. Like this thing had been focused on him, not the house, not random, him. And I had shifted its attention. I packed a bag. I don't even remember what I put in it. Clothes, charger, my laptop. My brain was running on static. Around 7 a.m., the sun came up like nothing had happened. Birds chirping, neighbors backing out of driveways, a delivery truck stopping 2 houses down. Normalcy felt obscene. I checked my phone. No new emails, no unknown numbers, no live feeds. Part of me wondered if it had stopped. If maybe whatever that was needed darkness, needed quiet. I was wrong. It waited until the afternoon. I was in the kitchen making coffee I didn't need when my phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Not a DM, a tag. Someone had tagged me in a photo. The account name was just a string of numbers. No profile picture. Private account. The photo was posted 30 seconds earlier. I opened it. It was a screenshot from Google Earth. My house. Zoomed in from above. The image was old. You could tell by the car in the driveway that we sold years ago. But there was something different. The garage roof. There was a darker patch on it. A shape that didn't match the shadows of the trees. It was subtle. You'd miss it if you weren't looking. But once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. It looked like something crouched on top of the garage. Not detailed, just wrong. The caption read, "You moved the door." My heart started pounding so hard, my vision blurred at the edges. I ran to the window that faces the driveway. The garage looked normal. Still, heat waves rising off the roof in the Arizona sun. I refreshed the Instagram post. Gone. The account didn't exist anymore. When I searched my tag notifications again, it was like it had never happened, except my pulse was still hammering in my ears. I didn't tell my dad. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to see that look on his face again. Around 3 p.m., I got a call from Marissa. She sounded off, not scared, confused. "Did you come to my apartment today?" she asked. "No." "Are you sure?" "Yes." She was quiet for a second. "There was someone in the hallway outside my unit," she said. "Just standing there." "Okay." I thought it was my neighbor, but it was just standing, facing my door. "Did you see its face?" "No. It was too tall for the peephole. I could only see the chest." The way she said chest made my stomach twist. "Did it knock?" I asked. "No." She hesitated. "It bent." "What?" "It bent down slowly, like it knew where the peephole was, and it leaned in." I felt cold all over. "And?" I whispered. "There was nothing there," she said. "No face. It was just dark, like the light didn't hit it." My brain was trying to reject the image. "That's not possible," I said, but it sounded weak. It stood back up, she continued, her voice shaking now. And then I heard something slide under my door. I gripped the counter so hard my knuckles went white. What did it slide? A piece of paper. What did it say? She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice cracked. It said, "You touched it too." The line went silent for a second, except for her breathing. "I didn't even move it," she whispered. "I just had my fingers on it." I couldn't think straight. "It followed you," she said. "No, not followed. Transferred. Like a tension. Like heat. Like infection." "Leave," I said. "Go somewhere public." "I am," she said quickly. "I'm in my car." "Where are you going?" "I don't know. Starbucks. I didn't want to stay." I told her to text me when she got there. She hung up. My phone buzzed 10 minutes later. A photo. Starbucks parking lot. Her car visible in the frame. And behind it, between two parked SUVs, a tall shape, standing, facing her. The message under the photo: "It doesn't like when you separate." I called her immediately. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. I texted. No response. I opened Find My Friends. Her location was active. It showed her at that Starbucks. Then the dot started moving. Not along the road. Not following streets. It moved in a straight line. Across buildings, across blocks. Like something dragging her signal through walls. Then it stopped. In the middle of an empty lot behind a strip mall. And the location froze. My dad walked into the kitchen and saw my face. "What happened?" he asked. "It's not just here anymore," I said. He closed his eyes, just for a second, like he'd been expecting that. "You made contact," he said quietly. "It learned your voice, your shape." "My shape," I said. "It doesn't see the way we do," he said. "It recognizes pattern." Pattern. That word made me think of the indentations under my bed. 5 evenly spaced marks. Pattern. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A voicemail. No call notification. Just the voicemail. I opened it. Static at first. Then Marissa's voice. Crying. "I'm sorry," she said. "I think I..." The audio cut. Then something else. A sound I can't describe without feeling sick. Not screaming. Not tearing. More like pressure. Like something being compressed slowly. Bone deep. Deliberate. Then silence. The voicemail ended. I called her again. Straight to voicemail. Her location still frozen in that empty lot. My dad took my phone from my hand and listened to the message. His jaw tightened. "It's not killing," he said. That word hit like a slap. Then what is it doing? I asked. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Guilt. It's replacing, he said. The front doorbell rang. Single chime. We both froze. My dad walked slowly toward the door. I followed despite myself. He looked through the peephole. His entire body went rigid. What? I whispered. He didn't answer. He stepped back from the door like it had burned him. It's her, he said. My blood turned to ice. Marissa? He nodded. I rushed forward and looked through the peephole. She was standing there, head tilted slightly, hair hanging forward, completely still. Her eyes were open, too open, and her chest, it wasn't rising, not even a little. Then she smiled, not wide, just enough, and her jaw opened slightly, too far, too smoothly, like it wasn't attached the right way. And from her mouth, I heard my own voice. Open up. I don't know how long we stood there, staring through that peephole. It could have been 10 seconds. It felt like 10 minutes. Marissa, or the shape wearing her, didn't blink. Her skin looked slightly off, like someone had stretched it too tight across her cheekbones. There were no bruises, no blood, nothing dramatic, just subtle wrongness, like a 3D model that hadn't fully rendered. And her mouth kept moving, but it wasn't synced. It would open a fraction too late after the words started, close too early before they finished. Open up, it said again. My voice, flat, empty. My dad grabbed my shoulder and pulled me away from the door. Don't look at it too long, he whispered. Why? It adjusts, like brightness on a screen, like focus. The doorbell rang again, longer this time. Whoever, whatever, was pressing it didn't lift their finger immediately. It just held it down, the sound vibrating through the house like an alarm you can't shut off. Then it stopped. Silence. We didn't hear footsteps retreating. No car starting. Nothing. Just quiet. I wanted to look again. I don't know why. Some part of me needed to confirm it was still there. Needed proof that this wasn't stress-induced psychosis, or carbon monoxide, or something rational. My dad shook his head before I even moved. Back window, he said. We went to the kitchen and crouched low, moving like burglars in our own house. He slowly lifted the edge of the curtain, just enough to see the driveway from an angle. She wasn't at the front door anymore. She was standing in the middle of the driveway, facing the house, head tilted the other direction now, like she was studying it. The sun was starting to set, that orange, heavy light that makes everything look cinematic and unreal. Her shadow stretched long across the concrete, except it didn't match her shape. It was too wide, It looked like two shadows overlapping, one aligned with her body, the other slightly offset, lagging behind. She raised her arm slowly, not waving, just lifting it toward the garage. And then, very calmly, she pointed. My dad inhaled sharply. "It wants back in," he muttered. The garage door, the boundary. I felt something shift inside me then, a horrible realization. "It was in the garage because of you," I said. He didn't answer. "Dad." His jaw tightened. "I made an agreement," he said quietly. The word agreement felt ancient in his mouth. An agreement with what? He didn't look at me. He kept his eyes on the window. "It wasn't supposed to attach to blood," he said. "It was supposed to anchor to location." My stomach dropped. Anchor. That space, he continued, was marked, sealed. It couldn't cross without invitation. And I had invited it. Not with candles, not with chanting, just curiosity. The figure in the driveway lowered her arm. Then she started walking. Not toward the house, toward the garage. Slow, measured steps. Her gait wasn't right. Too smooth. No natural sway. Like her joints didn't resist. She reached the side door of the garage. The one that sticks in the heat. She didn't touch the handle. She just leaned her forehead against the metal and stayed there, completely still. The metal should have been scorching in that sun. She didn't react. Then she began knocking. Not on the house, on the garage. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. The same rhythm from my bedroom door. I felt sick. "It remembers the pattern," my dad said. The knocking grew louder. The metal vibrated. And then, the garage door started to lift. Not the side door, the main rolling door. It jerked upward an inch, then another, like something inside was pulling it from the bottom. There was no motor sound, no chain rattling, just metal scraping as it lifted itself. My dad swore under his breath and ran toward the back door. "Where are you going?" I yelled. "To stop it anchoring again." He flung the back door open and sprinted across the yard. I followed halfway before fear glued my feet to the patio. The garage door was halfway open now. Darkness inside. Thick. Heavy. The figure wearing Marissa stepped back, like it was making space, inviting something out. My dad reached the garage and grabbed the bottom of the door, trying to force it down. For a second, it looked like he was winning. Then the door jerked upward violently. He lost his grip and stumbled backward. And from inside the garage, something moved. Not stepping out, just shifting forward enough to break the line of darkness. I saw shoulders first, too broad, too tall for the frame. Then a head lowering to clear the opening. Its proportions didn't make anatomical sense. Limbs too long, torso slightly elongated. The surface of it looked like skin stretched over something uneven, and where its face should have been, there was only depth. Not empty, not flat. Depth. Like staring into a hallway with no end. The air around it warped slightly, like heat haze. My dad backed away slowly. The thing didn't rush him. It didn't need to. It turned its head, if you can call it that, toward the house, toward me. And even from that distance, I felt it recognize me. Not emotionally, mechanically. Pattern confirmed. The version wearing Marissa turned too. Both of them facing me now. Two bodies. One attention. My phone buzzed in my hand. I looked down reflexively. A notification from my own contact. My name. I had texted myself. The message read, "You're easier to enter when you're afraid." I dropped the phone into the grass. When I looked back up, the taller shape had moved. Not walked. Moved. It was closer to my dad without crossing the space between, like frames missing from reality. My dad reached into his pocket and pulled something out. A small metal object on a chain. It caught the light briefly. A sigil. Carved. Worn. He held it up in front of him. The air seemed to tighten. The taller thing paused. Not recoiling. Just assessing. The version of Marissa began twitching. Small at first. Fingers jerking. Neck spasming slightly. Then her jaw unhinged again. And this time, instead of my voice, it was my dad's. "You promised," it said. Perfectly. Every inflection. My dad flinched like he'd been hit. "I did what was required," he said hoarsely. The taller shape leaned slightly to one side, observing. The version of Marissa smiled wider, skin stretching, teeth visible now. Too many. Not sharp, just crowded. "You moved the door," it said in his voice. My dad's hand started shaking. The metal sigil trembled in the air. "I didn't," he whispered. And then it turned its head toward me again. And I understood. It didn't care about agreements. It cared about access. And I had given it a new anchor. Not a place. A person. Me. The taller shape took one slow step forward. The ground didn't indent under its weight. It was like gravity didn't fully apply. My dad shouted something I didn't catch and lunged forward, slamming the sigil against its chest. There was no explosion. No cinematic reaction. Just a sound. Like air being sucked through a narrow pipe. High. Thin. Violent. The version of Marissa convulsed and collapsed onto the driveway. The taller shape flickered. For half a second, I saw something else layered inside it. Not humanoid, not even symmetrical, a twisting geometry that hurt to look at. Then everything went quiet. The garage door slammed shut, hard enough to rattle the windows. The taller shape was gone. The driveway was empty, except for Marissa's body. My dad fell to his knees. I ran forward, despite every instinct screaming not to. Marissa was lying on her back, eyes open, skin pale. I knelt beside her and reached for her wrist. There was a pulse, faint, but there. Her eyes moved, not focusing on me, just tracking something above us, something I couldn't see. Her lips parted slightly, and in a voice barely audible, she whispered, "It's not finished learning you." Marissa survived. That's the part people always cling to when I tell them pieces of this. They think survival means it's over. They think a pulse equals safety. They're wrong. The ambulance came after my dad made the call with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. We told them she collapsed in the driveway. Heat exhaustion, dehydration. We didn't mention the garage. We didn't mention the thing that stepped wrong in the air. They loaded her up. She was conscious by then, technically. Eyes open, tracking movement. But she wasn't responding normally. She kept staring at the ceiling of the ambulance and smiling. Not wide, just enough. I rode in the front seat. My dad followed behind in his truck. The entire drive, I had this sensation like something was pacing us. Not physically visible, just pressure. Like when you drive under high-tension power lines and you can feel a hum in your teeth. At the hospital, everything became fluorescent and procedural. Forms, questions, wristbands. A nurse asking if Marissa had taken anything. Another asking if she had a history of seizures. I watched them try to shine a light in her eyes. Her pupils reacted, but too slowly, like there was a delay between command and compliance. Her parents arrived around midnight. Her mum hugged me so tight, I thought my ribs would crack. I couldn't look her in the eyes, because when they wheeled Marissa past us toward imaging, she turned her head slightly, not toward her parents, toward me, and she mouthed something. 3 words. I didn't understand them at first. Then she repeated it, slower. Still inside you. I haven't told anyone that part. Not even my dad. They kept her overnight for observation. Neurological anomaly, they said. Stress-induced episode. They used language that makes things manageable. But the next morning, something happened that never made it into any chart. I was in the waiting area alone, half asleep in one of those hard plastic chairs when my phone vibrated. Not a call, not a text, a calendar notification for an event I didn't create. Title: Integration. Phase 2. Time: now. Location: Phoenix, Arizona. I deleted it immediately. It reappeared. Same title, same time, but the location changed. Now it just said where you are." My chest tightened. I stood up and walked toward Marissa's room. Halfway down the hallway, I heard something I'll never get out of my head. Laughter. Not loud, not manic. Soft, measured. It was coming from her room. Her door was cracked open slightly. A nurse stood just outside, frozen. Inside, Marissa was sitting upright in the bed, alone. No visitors, no doctors, just her, laughing. Her IV was still in, monitors still attached. The heart rate on the screen was steady. But she wasn't laughing like a person reacting to something funny. She was laughing like someone practicing the sound, testing it, repeating it, adjusting the pitch slightly each time. The nurse stepped inside cautiously. "Marissa?" she said. The laughter stopped instantly. Marissa turned her head. Slowly, too precisely. Her eyes locked onto the nurse, and in the nurse's own voice, perfectly matched, "I'm fine." The nurse went pale. "I didn't," she started. Marissa smiled. "You're fine," she repeated again in the nurse's voice. Then she looked past her, at me, and her smile faded. She tilted her head, studying, like comparing two images side by side. Then, in my exact tone, "You look tired." The nurse turned toward me, confused. I hadn't spoken. Marissa's gaze didn't waver. "You shouldn't have let it see you," she said in my voice. The heart monitor began to spike. The nurse rushed forward, pressing buttons, calling for assistance. But Marissa didn't convulse, didn't seize. She just lay back slowly against the pillow and went still. Too still. Flatline didn't come. Her heart kept beating. Her body just powered down. They sedated her after that, kept her under. They said it was precautionary. I knew it wasn't. It was containment. That night, back at the house, my dad and I didn't speak much. The garage door stayed shut. He'd nailed something above it earlier. I didn't ask what. I didn't want to know. Around 1 a.m., I went to the bathroom and caught my reflection in the mirror. For a second, it didn't match. My expression lagged. I blinked. It blinked half a second later. I stepped back. It didn't. Just slightly. Like it was recalibrating. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another email. No sender, no subject. Inside, just a short video clip. Security footage. Hospital hallway. Time stamped 5 minutes in the future. The camera pointed at Marissa's room. The door opening. A figure stepping out. Too tall for her proportions. Limbs elongated. Moving with that same unnatural smoothness. And then turning directly toward the camera. Toward me. The video ended. I checked the hospital's live visitor camera feed online. The hallway was empty. Current time matched. Nothing unusual. I refreshed. Again. Still empty. Then my phone buzzed with a text. From my dad. Even though he was in the next room. Did you leave? I walked into the living room. He was asleep in his chair. Phone on the coffee table. Screen dark. I picked it up. No recent texts sent. No message to me. I felt something shift behind my eyes. Not physically painful. Just pressure. Like a thought that wasn't mine trying to push forward. I heard it then. Not outside. Not in the house. Inside my head. Not a voice exactly. More like a pattern of recognition. It wasn't trying to scare me. That's the worst part. It wasn't angry. It wasn't malicious in the way humans understand it. It was curious. It had learned my cadence, my voice, my posture. It had mapped my reactions. And now it was testing something deeper. I looked back at the hallway mirror from the living room. My reflection stood there, watching me, before I moved. And it smiled. Not wide, just enough. The pressure inside my head increased slightly. Not painful, just intrusive. And I understood something with a clarity that made my hands shake. It doesn't need to break in anymore. It doesn't need doors, or garages, or boards. It needed a pattern. It needed access. And I gave it both. Because earlier tonight, when I hesitated before telling this story, when I replayed everything in my head, every detail, every sound, I wasn't just remembering, I was rehearsing. And now, when I speak, when I record this, sometimes my voice sounds a fraction too steady, too controlled, like someone else is helping me shape it, learning, still inside me. And I don't think it's finished yet.
Thanks for surviving both stories with me tonight. That last one really makes you wonder what's actually waiting in the dark when you go looking for it. Which one of these two most unsettles for you? Let me know in the comments. I'll be down there reading your theories tonight. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and join us for more. I'm your host, and I'll see you in the next one.